Let's take a look at the action from last week and what I think might happen going into next week. We're going to take a look at a couple of different things in this week's weekly review. I've got on the chart right now the ES, and I've got my Bollinger Band indicator up. You can see a couple of weekly trend lines here where I think there's really be good support should it pull back this far. I've got a daily trend line here which has been broken. I'll probably actually go ahead and delete that. I don't always, I keep my weekly trend lines on the chart forever, but the daily ones I will take off from time to time. What we saw last week is we hit this 52-week high, and then we came down to a kind of close to a real support level right through here, and it bounced around like it wants to make another move back up into next week. The week of Thanksgiving, I expect fairly low volume, so I wouldn't be surprised if it just grinds sideways or slowly grinds up. It wouldn't take a lot of volume to move it, just because, actually, it wouldn't take a lot to move it because there's not going to be much volume. So if people come in bidding it, then of course it's going to continue up, and there won't be much volume probably the week of Thanksgiving to offset that. Looking at where it's at right now, you've got kind of a little triangle forming here. I actually expect it sideways to move up. I'd be surprised if it came down going into Thanksgiving. It looks like it's found some support through here, and it wants to continue higher again. Let's take a look at another one of the indicators. This is my wave indicator, and you really see the same thing. It came off of this 2 ATR extension, and then it's dropping back down into the top part of the wave. It's wanting to bounce. Looks like it's wanting to bounce back up. And with support here and support at this weekly trend line, barring some sort of world news, I do expect it to continue sideways or up as opposed to moving down next week. RSI is still high. That's a concern. Have RSI up this high, but if you look back in here, it would to get very little relief from RSI and pop back up until it finally started to lose steam right through here. So I would expect to see something like this, before we get a move down, like we did here. I don't expect this type of move down again, barring some sort of world news. But I think we'll get more relief later from RSI. I think we're more likely to get a bounce here and then back up into the overbought area before it starts to move down. Take a look at the final indicator that I use, and this is my moving average indicator, and you can see it's following the 10 EMA right here, and it's just bouncing, which is what which I would expect to see going into next week, going into Thanksgiving. I would expect these two to close their distance more like it was back in here, where you got this more of a shallow move up as opposed to this big move up here, and bring those distances back down. We've got the 50 simple and the 200 simple still down here, but there's tremendous amount of support through here that I think will really keep the market up going through next week. Take a look at the bonds. Bonds is very interesting to me because really what I see here, we've got a downtrend coming right through here. We've got kind of weekly resistance here and weekly support here. We're at the 1 ATR, which is not really that extended, but as we look at this downtrend that we've got forming here, you look at the Bollinger Bands, then what I would expect is really a continued move down from here. I would be a little surprised if it continued up. It might consolidate, but I'd be surprised if it broke above. And moving down in bonds would also tend to indicate a move up on the ES also. So this kind of confirms what we were looking at the ES. I'm going to remove this alert. I don't need it anymore. Let's take a look at the other indicators. The wave, we're above the wave. We've got a little move up on, it looks like an uptrend forming, but if you look back at the previous trend, it is mostly a downtrend. So, barring some fundamental change, I would expect this to turn back down. Take a look at my moving averages. We've got a cross here of the 10 EMA as it's moving up through the 20 and 30. This could present a change in trend, but I really expect to see more of this. This was a V bottom, and this is very rare. This was an odd thing to have happen. It consolidated back and recovered that because of that steep move down. But what we have here is it's not as steep of a move down. Yes, this was a little bit, but it consolidated, in a channel, and it's still trying to move down. So, yeah, based on what I expect the ES to do, I would think this is going to move down. Now, if I was looking at this all by itself with just this one indicator, you could make the argument that we may pull back and then move up again based on this indicator. But that's why I don't look at just one indicator. I look at all three of my indicators and try to get a read of what I think is going to happen based on them. Which reminds me, I want to go back and look at RSI. So RSI is still in a good area, which means there could be some more upward momentum. But I really expect this about 2 ATR band to hold here and for it to move back down, which is, again, consistent with what I saw on the market itself. It moving up, the bonds can move down. Let's take a look at the yen. And we've got a little bit more confusion, I think, here, but what we really need to look at is, we're bouncing at the mean right here. We've got a weekly trend line here, got one further up here that's going to give us some resistance if it tries to move up. We've got a lot of indecision in the market right through here as it's trying to make up its mind which direction it's going to go. To me, looking at this indicator, I believe that it's wanting to move back down. It has an uptrend here, so you got to be careful because you did have an uptrend that it kept, forcing back on you. But it lost a lot of steam right here. It took a big nosedive here, which is why you got the bounce as it dropped down to this trend line, which actually this trend line I drew based on these two candles. Probably if I have to go back and look, so we really can't use that here because this trend line would not have been here when this candle formed. I drew it after the fact. So but it broke the trend line here, so this was not as important a trend line as I had initially thought, because it really broke it pretty easy, and it quickly turned into resistance as it started back up, and it provided virtually no support again. Well, I guess you could argue that these three candles are showing the fight over that trend line, but I would have liked to have seen it respected a little bit more before it continued sideways. Moving on to the next. This is the wave indicator. We've got this uptrend here and it's leveling out. So the question you have to ask yourself here is, is this the downtrend right here? Then this is a correction and now back to a downtrend. Or is this forming a new uptrend with a correction and another correction here before it goes up? Looking at my support and resistance and looking at what the overall market's doing, it's my belief that we're going to continue this downtrend, at least for a while. Obviously, barring some sort of thing in the market that I can't really predict using technical analysis. But I really feel that the yen is going to continue to move down, which is consistent with what I'm seeing in the ES and bonds. So I believe that it will move down from here. You do have, if you did look to short it, I would look at a stop probably in this area or above this trend line here, and then this would be your next stop area. I think that if you're going to use your 2 ATR band up here as a stop, that's probably too much risk. So if you do plan on using that as your stop, then you have to really calculate what you think your potential gain is to make this trade worth it. And I don't think there's really enough in it right now to make a stop up here worth the risk, because you need to, at least a 1-to-1, preferably a 2-to-1 risk reward ratio. And because of how far that stop would be, I'd be concerned about doing that. I'd be pretty comfortable with a stop here or a stop at this trend line, because I would expect it to move sideways as this trend line comes down. So you do have some potential for gains down in this area. I would certainly want to take profit right before it got to this pivot here. Maybe I wouldn't close the entire position, but I'd take something off and then maybe stop to break even if I was going to go short there. Looking at my moving averages, they're all showing, all except for the 200 are showing a uptrend. Yes, we've come back down here. We're showing a lot of support at the 50 simple, which is here it hit the 50. Here it hit the 50. I would consider that support here. It didn't quite hit it here, but there was support, and then you got support here. The problem is you've got this 200 simple coming down, and right now there's going to be a fight between whether the 50 holds support or the 200 holds resistance as we narrow this channel. My bet, because of the way the rest of the market looks and because of the way the bonds look, that we're going to move down. I don't know that we're going to hit this area. I would certainly shoot for this area here. I would be careful coming into this trend line here and this pivot low here, because again, I don't really think we're going to hit down here. So your target would be here and then somewhere in this area probably. And that can change based on price action and what's going on in the market. This is just what I see today. So, looking into next week, I expect a slow grind up to and consolidation within the overall exchanges. I expect bonds to consolidate or move down. I would expect the yen probably to move down, certainly to stay under the 200, SMA. I would even be surprised to see this. I do believe the move is going to be to the downside, at least to this area, possibly into this area right here. So good luck on your trading. Please like and subscribe if you got benefit from the video. Let me know what you'd like to see in the future. I try to respond to as many comments as I can, so just let me know. Thanks.